Good. So look at the signs and the letters. So put the letters next to each other and find the word. Then you can find the message. What is the first word? Very good. Excellent.
Day.
Bravo. Mother's Day. Bravo. Bravo. So you know how to do this.
Is on.
Uh-huh. Thank you very much. So guys, the recording is proceeding. Yes, Mother's Day is on. Good.
Is on the. Yes, is on the.
Mm-hmm. Bravo. And the second? Excellent. Sunday. You're almost done and you're fast. Bravo. Bravo. That's it. So Mother's Day is on the second Sunday in May. So what is this? Is it listening? What skill is this? It's not listening, definitely. It's kind of, what is it? Between those four skills.
Writing.
It could be writing and reading both. Yes,
Both.
yes, just finding the sign, decoding, decoding. Yeah, good. So that's my warm up. So in your lesson plan, when it said introduction, how do you start the lesson? You need to write what's your warm up and leading both. How do you start the class? Okay, so as you know, there are four, let's have a very quick review. There are four language skills. What are those four?
Listening, writing, reading, and speaking.
Bravo. Which ones are productive skills?
Speaking and writing.
Speaking and writing, productive skills because you produce the language. And which ones are receptive?
Reading and listening.
Reading and listening since you receive the knowledge. Good job. Start with how to teach reading. Once more, what we are talking right now is teaching reading to adolescents and adults. Children, you're going to have another session for children. Okay, I give you a minute to read these sentences and tell me your idea. Which one do you agree with or which one you disagree? And give the reason. So 1 minute, go through the sentences and you have a thinking time for a minute. Okay. So A said reading is like listening, except that the input is written, not spoken. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
You can type A means you agree, or D means you disagree. So what about this one? Mm-hmm. To agree. B, comprehension means understanding all the words in a text. Okay, give me the reason why you disagree.
Because in reading, especially in reading, you shouldn't necessarily understand every word in the text because you can guess, you can just use other techniques to get the gist of. Maybe it's not necessary to get to know every word in the text.
Bravo. That's it. That's it. We never expect our students to know all the single new words. No, no, definitely not. Even when you read something in your mother tongue, maybe there are one or two words that you are not sure for the meaning, but still you comprehend what is the text about. And C, reading in classroom means reading aloud. Okay, thank you.
No,
Okay,
don't
give me the
agree with
reason.
C. You can read in mind.
Bravo, Dorothy. Bravo, Dorothy. Not necessarily reading aloud. And for D, for teaching purposes, text should be simplified.
Depending on their level, it don't have to be simplified.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Depending on the level, bravo. It depends on the level. Exactly, exactly. E, reading is a good way of improving vocabulary.
Yes, agree.
Sure. It's receptive skills, means you receive the knowledge, so you learn many words. And F, the aim of classroom reading is appreciation of literary text. Yeah, definitely not. It's a classroom for reading a language. That's right. Thank you. Thank you very much. What is the aim of this part? Put your students in a challenge to start thinking. Sometimes you just put some sentences about the title that students start to think about the title. So this is one way to put your students in the context. It's not always showing them pictures or videos or um, sharing or discussion, have a discussion about the title or sharing stories. There are different ways. So you can put some sentences and ask them, are they true or false, or do you agree or you disagree? And then they start thinking. Even you can put them in pairs to discuss together. So this goes for leading. So in your lesson plan, introduction, warm up, and leading. How you start the class, and then how you lead your students to the new lesson and start talking about the new lesson. We have two approaches for reading. We can say we have two forms of reading: extensive reading and intensive reading. Anybody knows what's the difference?
I think extensive reading is when you read as a hobby, you read the stories, these things out of the classroom. And intensive reading is a kind of reading that there is a purpose behind it. It is something that we do maybe in class.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
I think intensive like essay or science essay.
Mm-hmm. Academic reading. Okay, thank you very much, my dear. Bravo. Bravo. Anything else anybody wants to add?
Like a comprehension passage, you have to read and respond to questions that are being asked. While extensive, it can be done anytime. You can read anything you want to read, while intensive reading is probably prescribed.
Bravo. Thank you very much. How do I pronounce your lesson? Your name? Is it Mush or Ma? Is it
Mosh.
Mosh? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's it. So extensive, it's a kind of reading, but silent reading by individual students based on their interests. So they like sports, they read some articles about this kind of sport that they like. For example, they love basketball, they search on the internet, they surf it, or they find magazines, or they read articles about basketball players and teams and matches and these things. Or they like novels, they read novels. So they read it for pleasure, they enjoy it. And how fast or slow they read, it depends on them. So reading at their own speed. What is the use of, or what's the impact of extensive reading on learning language? Is it good? Yeah.
Perhaps you get a good understanding of different sorts of things and you expand your vocabulary regarding different sorts of things. So you're getting a lot from reading on your own without having to be prescribed.
That's it. That's it. You get familiar with the language, okay? With the words, with the structures, even they get familiar with the culture of that language. Bravo. So when they get familiar with the language, they can learn it much better. Usually good listeners are good speakers, and good readers are good writers. What about intensive reading? So in intensive reading is also silent reading, but the focus is on the language rather than text. It means when like academic reading or texts in their notebooks, they have to go through it, and there are some questions for comprehension part to check their understanding of the text, and also linguistic parts. They have to learn new vocabulary, they study the grammar and expressions in the text. So that is intensive reading. Extensive reading usually happens out of the classroom. Depends on their interest. They find something, they read it, and then when come back to the class, they start talking about it or they write about it. And you only, as a teacher, you only check the comprehension part. But intensive reading are the readings in their course books. So as a teacher, we check comprehension part and linguistic parts. They need to learn the new vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, intonation, everything for the linguistic part. And we check and assess our students. Is that clear? What's the difference between extensive and intensive?
Yes, yes.
Just assume it's every Saturday and Monday. Okay. Like here, I bring up some examples for structures like discourse markers. So first, second, next, in addition, furthermore, they underline, they study how to use it, or connections like however, in addition, therefore. So in detail, you go through the instructions. What else is for reading? We have communicative and academic reading. Communicative readings like emails, texts, memos, But academic reading, like study modules, like what you study for TESOL, that is academic reading. They're different because the jargons are different, vocabulary different, expressions are different, and students need to learn both. But what about reading? Here's a question. What about reading out loud? When can you ask your students to read something for you or for the class? Usually we ask for silent reading because if they want to comprehend, and usually when you want to understand something, you have to read it for yourself. It's silent reading. But when can you ask your students to read something to the class or read it out loud? Or why it's good to ask?
There's that comprehension in what the text they've read about, if they understand it or not.
Yes. Okay. What else?
Check their pronunciation.
Bravo. I'm sorry. Bravo to check their pronunciation and intonation. That's it. Okay, guys, Tanya said I could not find the link to join the meeting. Do we just assume it's every Saturday and Monday? Yes, that's the same link, isn't it? That's fine, Tanya, that's fine. I'm happy you're here. It's the same link. Oh.
I find this really, really hard to do a course like this. I really want to do it in person. And I'm finding it really frustrating working full time. So sorry I was late, but I'm
Oh,
so
no, that's
behind
fine.
and I'm doing this. I'll probably be done next summer. I don't think I'm going to get through it because I work full time as an elementary teacher and I'm working 50 hours a week. So there's just no way I can include this as well. So I'm going to try my best and come to the meetings.
Oh, okay. Good to hear. But actually, now, do you have the link? Can you save it or ask another students to send it for you to save it for the next sessions? You have the link now?
I don't have any idea where the link is. Is it an email? Is it in Canvas? Like, where is it?
I've received it in emails. What about the other students? Have you received it in emails? So let me check.
Yes, I have seen.
Can you
It's an
send it
email
in the
and a
chat box?
calendar invite.
Can you send, guys, can you send the link in the chat box so Tanya can copy it?
I literally just went to this WebEx and joined as a guest because I didn't know how to do it.
Oh, okay. So, okay, let's finish it with the webinar. So at the end of the webinar, I check my email and then send you the link in the chat box, definitely. I have it in my email address.
Oh, I'll send it now.
Oh, you sent it? Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, there you go. That's great. Okay, let's get here. So here's the link, Tanya. You can save it in the chat box. Thank you, Jose.
You're welcome.
So talking about the linguistic part. So we talk about vocabulary and practice with the students, vocabulary, expressions. We sometimes ask them to read some parts out loud to check their pronunciation and intonation. Definitely not the whole reading and not all of the students because it's very time consuming and it gets boring for the students. Maybe some parts we just ask, especially for lower level, ask some of the students to read it to check their pronunciation and intonation. And not only that, also for academic reading, it's good to talk about different parts of the reading. Like here is the introduction, let's analyze the introduction. What can you find in the introduction? What's the difference between main body and introduction? And what about conclusion? It's good to analyze and discuss it for intermediate above. For intermediate above, since they have to learn how to write an essay, how to write an article. So they see the sample, you discuss it in the class, you talk about different parts of the article. Later in their writing, they have already seen the sample, so it's going to be easier for them to write. So the focus in intensive reading is not only on comprehension, also to the linguistic part. Good. Now, back to pre, while, post, the stages for teaching. Right now, let's focus on intensive reading, okay? The reading that they have in their course books, academic reading, or the reading in their course books. So pre, while, post. What's the purpose of pre? What do you do in pre-time, pre-task activity? Can you tell me the steps?
It gives the reader an idea of the topic that they're going to be reading about. So they have a general idea of what the content is, so they're not just going in blind.
Bravo. So what do we call it? We say we put our students
in context.
Bravo. We put students in the context. There are different ways to put your students in the context. Posters, pictures, the topic talking. Put the title on the board and ask some questions. Put students in groups to discuss. Watch a video. Ask them to read an article about the reading. Maybe they're reading, they have no idea about the reading. It's very new to them. So we can flip some information before the class to your students. They read it, and then when they come to the class, they have some ideas. But we never ask our students to read the text of the book in home before you're teaching. No, never. You have to teach it first, then they go through the homework and activities. But they can read something relevant to the topic if you know that your students don't have any ideas. For example, it's about a country like Nepal. And you know your students don't know anything about Nepal. So you should send them a video before the class. You flip an article about Nepal to them. So when they come to the class, they have some ideas. Where is this country? What's the capital of this country? What is the industry of this country? What's the language of this country? So they have some ideas. Then they go through the text. So we put the students in the context. Then there are two approaches for teaching reading. Top down and bottom up. What's the difference? Do you have any idea? What's the difference between bottom up versus top down process?
Could be like teacher led or student led. Like I think I like bottom up better in some ways.
Okay.
Bottom up is what you get from the text, from the words in the text, and top down is your general knowledge that you use to understand the text.
Thank you. Very good.
Top down focus on the meaning and comprehension.
Okay. Bravo. Very good. Very good. And also, Chinese, I have any inquiry questions. Then start talking group. That's nice. So, very good. Top down, back to their background knowledge and working on their comprehension or meaning of the text. We call it top-down process. So we start activate their background knowledge, ask them some questions, then they ask them to read the text, and then they discuss what they understand from the text. So basically the meaning of the context or the text. That's top-down. But bottom up is the linguistic parts. Okay, new vocabulary, new structures, or different parts, for example, introduction, main part, and conclusion. So they analyze the text. That is bottom up process. So back to pre, while, post. In pre, we put the students in the context. Then to understand the text, usually there are some keywords. So some of you tell me what I mean by keywords, or what are the keywords, which words we call them keywords.
Usually verbs, adjectives,
Mm-hmm.
maybe nouns.
New words to help
Or
them understand the meaning.
Bravo. Very good, Rosie. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Keywords means the words that have the main, or keywords are the main words that if students don't understand those words, they won't understand anything of the text. So you can get the main idea of the context through the keywords. I repeat my example that I gave you last session. The listening or the text or the reading is about how to make a strawberry jam. So there are some new words like strawberry, jams, pour, add, chop, melt. There are 6 new words. But strawberry and jam are the key words. Because if even the students know the meaning of melt, pour, add, and chop, but they don't know the meaning of strawberry and jam, they won't understand what's the context is about. So these two, strawberry and jam, are the keywords. Before asking your students to read the text, we need to pre-teach the keywords. So in pre-task activity, number 1, put the students in the context. Number 2, pre-teach the keywords. Only the keywords, not all the new words. Why not all the new words? Why don't we teach all the new words?
Sometimes it's not necessary. Maybe they're not keywords for students to be able to understand the gist. And then sometimes we may work on guessing activities. They have to guess from the text what the word means.
Thank you. And Tanya said, overload? Exactly. Exactly. Just imagine at the very beginning of the class or at the beginning of the activity, there's a bunch of new words on the board and you have to teach them. So that's too much for the student. And it's hard to remember. Yeah. Also, we give our students a chance to guess. Let them guess the meaning from the context. They cannot guess the meaning of the keywords, okay? Because they are the main words. So we pre-teach only the keywords and give them a chance to guess the meaning of the other words while they're reading it. So that goes for pre-task activity. Then we get to while task activity, which is practicing. There are two approaches for reading. One is, it's not here, I'm going to check this one a bit later. Skimming and scanning. In while, we ask a student first to skim the text and then scan. What's the difference between skimming and scanning?
So skimming is, I think, to get the general idea of the text and to just get the general idea, to get the gist. But the scanning is looking for keywords, looking for specific information.
Thank you very much. Any other ideas? Okay. So as Hossein said, skimming is just you get the gist of the reading, get the main idea of the reading. That's skimming. Like reading newspaper. Do you go in details? No, you just read the article to see what's this article about. So it's a technique to get the general comprehension of the text or of the passage. It lasts for 3 or mostly 5 minutes, not more than that, 3 to 5 minutes. Students go through the text and they talk about their general understanding. So they read the title. Sometimes they read, for example, in a context, they can read the introduction and conclusion. They understand what's this text about. Or maybe the first sentence of each paragraph, which we call a topic sentence. If it's a long text, so they can read the headings or subheadings, or it's a chart if it doesn't have a chart. So they look at the chart or a graph, or italic or bold or underline words. So simply it means they get the gist of the reading. That is skimming. And scanning, the search for specific information, like finding answer for questions. Or you ask them some questions and they have to look for it to find. They have to go through the details, or it's kind of detail reading to find or to scan the answer and find specific information you're looking for. It could be numbers, it could be names, it could be events or name of people. That's a scanning. So in while, what happened is, in while task activity, we ask students to skim and to scan the tasks. When they skim, ask some questions or give them some activity to check their general comprehension. And then, give them detailed questions, true, false sentences that they need to scan to find the answer. If they want to decide whether the sentence is true or false, they have to scan it to say, yes, it's true, or yes, this sentence is false, and give you the reason. So that's for skimming and scanning or detail reading. Here for scanning, it's a time to check for the other new words and check with your students, ask them to guess the meaning, or maybe there are some new structures. Again, you check with your students. Just solve all the problems or all the difficult issues with the text in while. Put your students in pairs or in groups so they can discuss. They can have collaboration. Together they can find the answers, all solve their problems. That goes for while. What happened in post stage? What you do in post stage?
Get feedback.
Get feedback. Bravo, bravo. How?
By asking them some questions.
Yes, you can ask them questions. What else?
Do a quiz.
Okay.
Or ask them to give a summary of the text.
Yes, thank you. Or you can put them in pairs. They discuss about the title and about the text and share their ideas. If they have any experience about the title, they share it, or if they say which word they like, which word they don't like. But there's a difference. There's a difference here between post and pre. In pre, when you ask them to discuss the title, they talk about their experience and background knowledge. But in post, they have to use the new expressions, the new vocabulary, the new structures that they practice in while during the while task activity. They practice, then in post, they need to produce. Okay, so you monitor your students that they use the new information that they have already practiced. Reflect and get the feedback. How well they learn the reading. Then definitely relevant homework. So can you give me an idea what could be the homework like for the reading, for example?
Again, to write a summary of the text.
It could be. Okay, what else? To improve their reading. What else?
Maybe finding something similar to read at home.
Bravo. They can surf the internet, bravo, to find something related to the topic. So they have to read. Yeah. Yes, online they have to read many texts to find something similar. Exactly. Exactly. Very good. Or maybe you provide them a reading, okay? And you email it to your students or share with your students, and then ask them some questions to write the answer or write an essay or write their idea for you. Or maybe next session come to the class and talk about it and discuss it in the class. Okay, so for intensive, we have pre-reading strategies, during reading strategies, and post. So we call it pre, while, post. Put them in the context, pre-teach the keyword, then ask them some questions to skim, check their general comprehension, and then they scan to find specific information for your question, detailed reading. Then you check with them about the other new words, about the structure, or any problems or any challenges for the reading. Just be sure they understand everything. Put them in groups, let them discuss, let them do the activity, and later post, so you reflect and get the feedback. So that's for teaching intensive, as approaches for intensive reading, okay? Like the reading in their textbooks. So far, is that clear for everyone? Any questions?
No, thank you.
Nothing? Oh, okay. Good. So now look at here. There are some sentences for each activity. Would you skim or scan? Like looking up a word in the dictionary. Is it a skimming or a scanning? Definitely it's a scanning because you look for a specific answer. What about number 2? Browsing the internet for the latest news stories. Is it skimming or scanning?
Skimming.
Bravo, skimming. Choosing a book from a library or bookshop.
Scanning.
Scanning, definitely. Finding a particular news story in a newspaper. Thank you, Tanya. It's a scanning because particular, see, particular news. 5, finding the price of a product in a catalog or in a brochure. Bravo, Moj. It's a scanning because you're looking for the price. Looking through a magazine for an interesting article. Do you read all the stories in the magazine in detail to find something interesting, or you just look at the titles, headings? Yeah. That's skimming. You just look at the headings, look at the pictures, maybe you read one or two sentences. Oh, this is interesting. Then you keep reading. So that's skimming. Good job. Talking about linguistic part. So even we need to discuss register with our students, informal and formal. So when they read the text, there's a difference between academic text and just casual text. So knowing the words or discourse markers, highlight it for your students. Ask them to underline how to connect the words, because later in their writing, they have to use them. How to connect them. When they support, what connections they use when they support the ideas, like in addition, moreover, also. But when they want to talk about something different ideas, what discourse markers they're going to use, like on the other hand, or nevertheless, okay, although, while, so this, just highlighted, and we need to discuss it in bottom-up process. We need to discuss all this part. There's another way of teaching reading when the reading includes some paragraphs which are not related. Like, what does your hairstyle mean? So each paragraph talks about different era or a different country. We can use jigsaw reading approach. Jigsaw reading approach means you put the students in groups, like in groups of 3 or in groups of 4. Depends on the number of the paragraphs. Here we have 4 paragraphs. So we put the students in group of 4. And first we ask them to skim the whole reading. They skim it and they get the idea, what's this reading about? Then in each group, we have students A, B, C, D. We ask student A to read paragraph 1, student B read paragraph 2, student C read paragraph 3, and student D read paragraph 4. Then we put A's together, B's together, C's together, and D's together. So one group are all A students. They read which paragraph? A students read paragraph, back to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. A student reads paragraph 1. B students read paragraph 2. C students read paragraph 3. And D students read paragraph 4. They're specific groups. So paragraph 1, 4 students, which are A students, for example, they read it, they discuss it, they talk about the new words, they talk about the structures, maybe even they make some questions about it. In each group, they just study one paragraph. And then after a while, we ask them to get back to their first group. So again, A, B, C, D. So student A talks about paragraph 1 and explaining to the group. Student B explaining to the group paragraph 2. C explain paragraph 3, and 4 explain paragraph, and student D explain paragraph 4. And they ask some questions from the others. And if the others have some question, ask about, for example, paragraph 1, they ask it from student A. That method called jigsaw teaching for reading. Is that clear, guys? Is that clear? What's jigsaw?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good. But it goes for the reading, which the paragraphs are not connected. So one paragraph separated, for example, here, the first paragraph is about Egypt. The whole thing is about hairstyle, but the first paragraph is only about Egypt. And the second is about Japan. The third is about Africa, and the fourth is about Europe. So they're separate paragraphs, but under the same topic. Now, let's back to top down and bottom up. Here's the questions. Discuss, do you think male and female brains are different? How? What are the stereotypes of men and women in your country based on the reading? So does it work on bottom-up approach or top-down approach?
Top down.
Yes, why, Hussein?
Because they have to just go to their background knowledge and to just remember what is common, what are the stereotypes in their own country, and then use their background knowledge and then get to the text.
Very good. Okay. So they have to understand the meaning, the message of the text to answer to these questions. So it goes to their comprehension based on their background knowledge. That is top-down approach. They can skim, and then they start to talk. But when you ask them, read this and find the quotes used to give someone's opinion, or find the concluding statement, or find the introductory statement. So what about this one? Is this top-down or bottom-up approach? They have to find a specific sentence for the introduction, how to start the introduction.
That's bottom up.
Exactly, it's bottom up. It's nothing to do with the comprehension of the whole text, but it goes to the linguistic part. How to write the introduction, how to write the conclusion, or find specific words, specific structures. So that is bottom-up activity. As a teacher, for intensive reading, we need to prepare both kinds of activities to check top down and bottom up, to check their comprehension and also the linguistic part. You need to both form of questions. Once more, I want to review. So pre-stage or pre-teaching, we use visual or talking about the topic, or survey or sentences. Just put them in the context. You have brainstorming ideas or Alexa's. Put them in the context, pre-teach the keyword, ask them to skim and scan. Skim, get the gist, scan, look for specific information, and decide whether the statements are true or false, or fill in the blanks. So you work on top-down and bottom-up approaches for both comprehension and the linguistic part in while stage. And in post, it's the time to get the feedback. So they have discussion, maybe they have role play, maybe they write a report, maybe they interview each other, maybe you put them in two groups and they debate. So different activities. Just check their understanding and how well they use the new information, the new vocabulary, the new structure. Maybe in while you ask them to read some parts aloud to the class, just to check their intonation and pronunciation, but just some parts, not the whole thing. As you know, it's going to be very boring. That goal was for intensive teaching, intensive reading. What about extensive? So outside of the class, you can encourage them to read storybooks. So first of all, you can ask them about their hobbies or interests. If they say, I like, for example, music, oh, who's your favorite singer, or which group do you like? What do you know about that group? Okay, can you read about it, find something about it, and then read it at home, come to the class and tell us and say, okay, this is my favorite group. And they go and they search for it. What's happening these days for this group? When is their next concert? So they read and they come to the class and talk about it. Or maybe the storybooks. Okay, you can ask them for different storybooks. You can introduce them different storybooks, then show them the picture of the cover and ask them some questions and just motivate them to read and say what's happening, who is she, what do you think is she going to do, can you guess the story? And so I want you to read it, and then next time tell me what's important about this stories. Okay, so just motivate them to read. But what if you have these problems in your class? There are difficult words. Oh, sorry. There are difficult words, and your students don't like to read. So what would you do? They said it's very difficult. Or then they said, I don't like to read, I like to watch the video. So what would you do if you have these challenges in your class? Oh, you ask them to listen to the story, but we just want to improve their reading. That's very good for listening. So what would you do?
Are you talking about what is happening in the class for a specific text?
No, I'm just saying that you ask them to read some storybooks, okay? But they say, no, I don't like to read the story. I just listen to the CD or for extensive reading. They don't go for extensive reading, okay? They don't like to do extensive reading. What would you do?
Then there should be something to their interest. I think first they should find what they like and then just encourage them to read what they like.
Very good. Thank you. Read with partner. Very good. Excellent. You can put them in groups. And so why don't you two together read it? Yeah, we're reading with the friends. And never put them in the box. Also, I suggest never put them in the box. Everybody, you have to read this storybook. As Hussein said, let's go for their interest. These Oxford graded readers are really good books. There are 100. There are 100 storybooks. There are short storybooks for each level. So for example, for elementary, you can find 100 titles. So we can introduce more than one, 10 storybooks, and so you can download it. You yourself can have a bank, okay, a material bank, so students can click on it and download it for your students. You can share it with your students. Or even you ask them, okay, Google it and find something that you like and read it and come to the class. So don't put them in the box. So far, do you have any questions for reading? If not, we can continue with writing. Yes, Tanya, thank you very much. You can choose with interest then.
I just was going to say that what worked really well with me with young children in, I shouldn't say young children, I should say like preteen, almost like into high school. And I did an ELL over the summer, and I did a fairly easy book, but I did it like a little theme book, and they had a lot of interaction and a lot of like project-based kind of stuff. And I think it would work for adults as well. I just found the kids were a lot more motivated when they were sort of when there was not just sitting at the desk, like we were doing a lot of geography, a lot of like using the novel to do all these other kind of integrated stuff. So it was quite, I found it quite engaging for them.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. That's nice. Thank you. Okay, let's go for teaching writing, the last skill. So what kind of, what are different types of writing in your class? One is answering to the questions. What else? Think about different types of writing.
Academic writing.
Bravo. Like essays and this thing. What else?
Casual writing on social media.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Say that again. Imaginative writing. Thank you, Tanya. Narrative, descriptive, bravo. Paragraph.
Formal writing and informal writing.
Yes, formal letters, informal letters, gap filling, reordering, guided writing, creative writing, essay writing, substitutions, postcards, emails, invitation, messages, and doing exercises. They're all writings. Yes, that's right. So what are the sub skills of writing? One is a spelling. What else? When you teach writing, you work on their spelling,
Punctuation.
punctuation.
I also work on things like more interesting words. So we do a thing where we take a word like nice and try to find other words for that word that
Vocabulary, to expand your vocabulary. Brain pockets, memory, nonfiction, and agenda. Very good. Okay, forming letters, writing legibly, punctuation, using correct layouts, choosing the right vocabulary, as your friend said, and using grammar correctly, joining the sentences, cohesive devices. That's very important in writing. And how to use, how to use paragraphs, introduction. For example, introduction consists of what, or main part, or main body, and conclusion. What's the difference between introduction and conclusion? How to start the conclusion part. What is the layout of an email? What's the layout of the letter? What's the layout out of the resume? Okay, how to write letters. And if it is formal, as your student, as your friend said, formal or informal, what expressions, what functions, what structures do you use for formal writing? What you use for informal writing? So choosing proper and right vocabulary and structure. Yes, there are sub-skills of writing. There are different types of writing, as you said, control, guided, free, process, and many others. This is control. For lower level, this one is kind of control typing. So they have to copy. So here in first, on the left, the first paper on the left, this one, the white. I don't know why there. No, the browser doesn't copy. So they need to, they're practicing how to write the letters between lines. And there should be space between words. They shouldn't be just stick to each other. I space, want space, two space. So that's copying. What about next one? Next paragraph. I went to my friend's place. What's the aim of this activity? I went to my friend's place yesterday.
grammar.
Punctuation, bravo, punctuation. And capital letters. I, at the beginning of a sentence, they need to write in capital. Yep, exactly. I went to my friend's place yesterday, period. Her, again, capital. Her name is Kimmy, so names should be in capital. Okay, and she's very nice. She loves talking to me, and sometimes we play basketball in the yard with her. So it's Emmy, capital, period. So this kind of activity for lower levels. Or this one. What's the aim of this activity? Rewrite it in your notebook. What do students need to practice here?
Punctuation?
Yes, punctuation. And also, bravo, word space. My space, mother space, is space. You know, the words are too close. And starting with capital I. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, so I should be in capital. And you know, on Scramble, it's working on their spelling. So what is the first word? Number 1, what is it? Rabbit. Very good, Moj. Number 2, and it's good practice, right? So number 2 is elephant, and number 3, snake, and the last one, monkey. Bravo. You can get, if it's at first, if it's difficult for your students, you can give them hint. Oh, they're all animals. So you help them in a way. This is another form, another practice for grammar. Fill in the blanks, but actually you practice on the grammar part. Correct form of the verb. So we say, hello, everybody, my name is Tui. So B, they have to write is. And this way you're practicing the grammar too. But this one says, look at pictures and write 5 sentences. This is for pre-intermediate level. So even you can give them the main words, the key words that you like your student use. So you say you write 5 sentences, but I want you to use house, chimney, door, window, sun, and trees. So they start, this is at the level of sentence writing, but in a way you control that they use the new words. But here, it's kind of freer practice. Look at these pictures and write the story. Look at this picture and write 1 sentence for each. It depends to the level. Maybe they just look at it and write 1 sentence, or they can write a paragraph, or even they can write a story. Also, you can say, look at this picture and write the dialogue. What are they saying? So they write bubbles and they draw bubbles and write the sentences. Even you can ask them, draw something for your friend. You have 2 minutes to draw something for your friend. Give it to your friend, and your friend look at the picture and start to write a paragraph about that picture. That's nice too. That's nice too. Or you can just say, write a paragraph for your friend. Now swift, send it to your friend, and then read your student's paragraph and draw it. So you're working on writing and reading comprehension both. So that you can design different activities. Just encourage them to write, because writing is a challenging skill and it's difficult for students. So we need to motivate them. We need to find a way to motivate our students to write. This is another example. How was your last vacation? This is intermediate above, the for higher levels. But still, you need to give them some prompts because they don't know. They just write I traveled to Vancouver for my last vacation. I traveled to Vancouver in last vacation. So that's one sentence. And so I don't know what to write. So give them prompt. Talk about the place, time, who did you go with, how was it, how was the weather. It's going to be more than one sentence. Or what do I have in my bedroom? Or in your favorite room? What do you have in your favorite room? You can ask them to, even they can find, even they can take a picture of their favorite room in the house and then write a paragraph, attach the picture. Or maybe they recorded a film, okay? And then they send you the video with the paragraph. Maybe they like their bedroom, or maybe they like the living room, or the kitchen, or the bathroom, or the balcony. Okay, which spot, which is your favorite spot in your house? So that's another way to encourage them to write. For higher level or academic writing, okay, to write an essay, for example, there's a process. Pre-writing strategies that starts with brainstorming. You put the topic or title on the board and start to talk. Then you ask them to make a list of different ideas. Then they go through it, and cross out the ideas which is not very related to the title. After that, they organize and classify the points that they want to bring in their writing, or they want to write about it in the essay. And they write the first draft. They have to go through it, revise it, edit it, and then make the final draft. Before the final draft, they can swap it with a friend. They give ideas and they edit for each other. Finally, they write the final draft and publish it and give it to you. So for essay writing, they need at least they need 30 to 40 minutes. So good to have the brain storming part for pre-writing, just they have ideas and you discuss in the class, then leave it to them, give them time to write it at home and to bring it or email you later. Back to this process part, pre, while, post. So in pre, we put the students in the context. They start to think about the title or the idea of the writing, maybe through pictures, stories, discussions, group talking, reading some sentences or reading a text, then start to write. So you put them in the context. If there are some new words that you need to pre-teach, or there are some new structures that you need to review with your students, so it happens in pre. One, it's a time that they start to write the first draft. They start to write, they practice. Maybe they are in groups and they edit each other, they discuss about it, they work together. The teacher monitor, check their writing, just you check if they're doing the correct, or if they follow the instructions, or they write it correctly. Give them prompts, help them to write. Even you can give them a sample. You write a sample on the board for writing a postcard. Let's write the postcard together. Give them a sample and then later ask them to write it by themselves so they have the sample. In post is a part that they publish and give it to you to check. Before hand it to the teacher, they can swap it and they edit each other or give ideas to each other's writing. But for checking, here. But for checking the writing, remember, it's much better you use correction codes like this. So you said, for example, wrong words. You underline it and say wrong words. Or it's wrong time. As our plane flew over the mountains, we see snow, so that's the tense is wrong. Or wrong form of the letter, of the verb. Or wrong order. Or the spelling is wrong. P for punctuation, the punctuation is wrong. Or here is extra word. Or here is something missing. As our plane flew over the mountains, south, snow, so something missing here. Or register is wrong. So it's too formal. This observe is too formal for this sentence. Or here, as our plane flew over the mountain, what? So it's not clear. Or passes of sea, the sentence proceed. So it's exclamation mark. And rewrite it. So give them codes and return it to your students. Give time to your students to read it, to think about it, and correct themselves. Critical thinking, one of those C's, the characteristics of 21st century. So I need to think about, I need to have a chance to go through my text again and correct myself. So give them correction, underline with the codes, return to the students and say, I want you to go through the codes and correct yourself. Then hand it for the final correction. But the students should understand the abbreviation. So you give them the meaning of the code. So WW means wrong word. WO means wrong order. SP means the spelling is wrong. Or any other codes that you want to use. It depends on you. But students should understand what these codes mean. So this is a way you correct their writing. You can use pictures to motivate them for homework, to motivate them to write. The biggest shopping mall in the world. Do you know where is this shopping mall? There's a very big sea aquarium. Do you have any ideas where is it? The biggest shopping mall in the world with the biggest, yes, it's in Dubai. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's in Dubai. Wow, it's very beautiful. So then they start to write. What if you were there? Do you like to go there? So what are you going to do if you go there? That's one way. Or here, do you remember that cartoon? An elephant, a zebra, a lion, and a hippo in New York City. It was very famous at the time. No idea?
No.
Madagascar. That was my favorite cartoon. That's not. So they look at the picture, or maybe you can use, something recently happened or new cartoons and animation. And this is creative story. So what happens to the group, Madagascar group in New York? What are they talking? Right for the dialogue. What happens to them? Or what are they going to do? That's another way to motivate your students to write. So even more, what frame of a movie? Okay, so like Titanic or any new movie or Top Gun. So what's happening here? Write about it, or write about the scenery, write about the actor. These are different ways you can give them homework. So pre-while post, again, you write for the process, lead in, teach the keywords that you want your students use it in their writing, set the context and introduce them, give them instructions. If they need a model, give them a sample, like model of email, model of resume, model of paragraph writing, for example. Formal letter, informal letter. So they need to see the model. Then you give them instructions, put them in groups or maybe individual first, then in groups they discuss, they start to write. You monitor if they have any questions as a teacher, give them prompt and help them to write. Then later, they check themselves, they swap their writing. If in your online classes, you put them in breakouts, they They can send or email their writings. They give ideas, edit their other students, and I come back to reading. Then finally, they submit it to the teacher. Correction codes, you give them codes, give them chance to think, correct themselves, and then finally hand it to the teacher. Classes for adults ever use audio taping to transcribe their ideas for writing? Not, you can do that, but it's not very common. It's not very common right now because it's kind of boring for the students and usually don't go for it. The point is, we always think how students enjoy their learning. So it's much better you ask them to write or to listen to something that they like based on their interests. It has a better impact on the students and better writing, better learning. So now there are some sites like Pinterest, perfect worksheets for writing for all levels, Pinterest. And okay, no, I want to show you this. How to write your lesson plan for skills. Some parts of it the same as the conversation skills. Okay, so you write what's the title, what's the topic of the lesson, number of students, level of the students, average age of the students. So this one goes for teenagers and adults. It's not for children. You have another activity or you have another lesson plan for children. So level of the students, you say elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, or advanced. And then average adult, teenagers 13 to 14, 15 to 16. But for adults, you just say adults. And interests, what about how here it shows how well you know your students. So there are businessmen, there are housewives, there are high school students, there are university students, clerks, or missing. What's their first language? So is it English? Is it Arabic? Is it Persian? Is it Chinese? Is it Japanese? And cultural background? Time, how long is this lesson plan for? For 90 minutes, for 30 minutes, for 60 minutes, for how long? And environment of practice. Is it for online? Is it for school? Is it for private class? Somewhere. And the material. You have to make a list of all the materials, markers, whiteboards, video clips, audios, props, for example, posters, puppets, anything you use, you have to make a list here. Introduction. In introduction said, how do you start the class? So here write about warm up and leading. How do you start the class? How do you start the class? And then how do you lead your students to the new lesson? How to put your students in the context? That goes for introduction. Terminal objective and enabling objective. What is the main aim of this session? For terminal objective, you write, okay, for terminal objective, you write, students will be able to what? At the end of the session, what is the final aim of this session? Students will be able to write a letter to their manager, read their report, discuss about the report, and listen to the latest news of the company and discuss it. So what happens at the end of this session? What happens? That is terminal objective. Enabling objective, you make a list. The new vocabulary, the new structure, pronunciation or intonation you practice, skills you practice. So basically, enabling objectives means how to get to that terminal objective. If you want to get here to this final point, what the students need to learn to get here, that is enabling objective. Okay? So make a list and attach all you have for enabling. New words, you have to make a list. These are the new words. A structure, you have to make a list. These are the structures. Then it goes to process here. Activity and directions. Why is that workshop? Directions and guide. Pre-while post. So you get to process, you write pre-while post. How do you start pre? How you practice in while? How do you get the feedback? For listening, for reading, for writing, for speaking. So for your listening, maybe your listening is a pre-part of your speaking. That's fine. That's fine. Or your speaking is a pre-stage for your writing. You start the speaking, then you ask them to write. That's okay. But don't forget, here you need to write the time. For example, is this activity for 5 minutes, for 6 minutes, for 7 minutes? For how long is it? Don't forget to write the time. And what about the students? What's the fate? Are they in groups? Is that individual work? Is it group working? Is it pair working? Is it class discussion? So how's the interaction of the students? So in process, you need to mention what you do, what the students do, and how's the interaction, pair, group, whole class, individual, and time. In appendix, you need to attach worksheets, quizzes, audios, a link of the video, posters, pictures, everything. You put it in appendix. An assignment, homework. So what are students going to do to practice at home for next session? Is that clear? Do you have any questions? Please go ahead. Candidate's name is your name. Your name. Your name. You write your name, Tanya. For example, Tanya, and your family name, and the dates that you write this lesson plan. Sure. Okay. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Everything's clear?
Yes.
So this
Yes,
was
it's
just a
clear.
sample. Oh,
Sure. Sorry, say that again. This is just for? So this is sample. Yes, that's a sample of lesson plan. You can find this sample in your Canvas. You can find it in the Canvas. I guess you have to write 4 for some group 4, for some group 2. Integrated lesson plan for 4 skills. Am I right? 4 and some group, yes. Just keep, for example, you think about a title like environment. The title is environment. Then you find a reading. Then you think about a writing activity. Then you think about the listening and a topic for discussion or speaking part. Or the title is holiday. Holiday. The same thing. Or shopping. Shopping. Weekend shopping. So you find a text for where to go for shopping. Then you write where do you usually go, who do you usually go for shopping. They write a paragraph, and then they listen to an ad or something about the new shopping mall, and then start talking or making a dialogue at the store. But you need to put the title, so everything should go around one topic or one title.
Excuse me.
Please.
So the teaching content can be anything. The topic can be anything, but
Yeah.
it must include teaching, reading, writing, listening, all
Skills,
skills in
all
one
the
lesson
4
plan.
skills, but about any topic. Yes. It's up to
Okay.
Okay, sorry, and
And
I have
how
a
long?
question. I'm sorry, Dorothy.
you.
Um, I wrote some conversation lessons.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Conversation activities for listening and speaking. Can I use the same topics and just add reading and writing to them for my
It shouldn't
four
be the
lesson
same.
plans?
You know, it shouldn't be exactly the same because that was the way you use. I mean, you had that lesson plan to teach conversation part. But when you talk about listening skills and speaking skills, the topic should be the same, but the activity should be different, not exactly the same, because it's going to be the same conversation, you know? Yeah. How long is it? It depends on you. It depends on you. So this is a class, for example, you say this is for 90 minutes class. This is for 2 sessions, maybe. Maybe you say, I practice this parts in 1 session and the other parts in next sessions. So it depends on you. The timing is goes with you. Okay, so I guess, yes, our time's over. Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation and take care of yourself and take care of your assignment. Okay, take care and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.